All right, so I know that we've given you lots and lots of food for thought and lots of resources to explore. But just remember that Module 2 does not close on Sunday. You can go back in anytime and continue to explore those amazing websites that we've given you. So take a deep breath and think about the next step for the NSEEK project, and that is for you to develop the summative assessment for that lesson plan. So think about what is it at the end of that lesson that you want your students to know and to be able to do. There are really two pieces to that summative assessment: the product and the evaluation. So the product is that student piece. So it's the thing that the student is doing to demonstrate what they've learned. That could be a dance, it could be a sketch, it could be a writing piece, whatever it is that they're doing to demonstrate what they know and can do. And then there should also be an evaluation piece. It shouldn't just stop at the product. There should be something that you as the teacher are doing to show that the student has met the criteria that you've put out there for their learning. And that can be a rubric, a critique, a checklist, something that clearly communicates their mastery of those standards and learning objectives. So the hard part here is going to be aligning assessment with learning objectives. So I'm going to come back to the example I gave last time. If I was a fifth grade teacher and I wanted to integrate arts content in my classroom, I might steal or modify an idea that I got from Karen Tribble from the Secessa Arts Initiative website and have my students create modern totems. So if I go back in to those arts standards, the art standards that most closely connects with what I want my students to do would be the visual arts standards in the creating strand, that ask students to make art or design with various art materials and tools to explore personal interests, questions, and curiosity. My students have been learning about the Northwestern Native American cultures, and they've been reading books. And so now I want them to create a piece of art that is integrating their personal interests, but using those traditional forms to do that. So if I come back up here, I'm going to use the visual arts standards in the creating strand, make art or design with various art materials and tools to explore personal interests, questions, and curiosity. That sounds like it most aligns with what I want my students to do. And even though I have a fifth grade class, my students aren't quite to the fifth grade level, maybe not even to the fourth grade level yet. They aren't quite ready for collaboration. They aren't quite ready to integrate technology in the task. So I'm going to focus on that second grade level standard. So next, I have to think about creating a learning objective that connects to this standard. So my learning objective for my students in this lesson, students will develop a modern totem that integrates personal interest with traditional forms. So I want them to use symbols and images that connect to things that are meaningful to them, but to use that totem format that they've been learning about. And I've noticed that there are lots of examples of this. You can find some online and show your students of what modern totems might look like. So now I need to come up with some sort of prompt so that students know clearly what I'm asking them to do. So if I come back to that Webb's depth of knowledge piece, and again, I know this is quite a heady text. There's a lot here, but if you learn how to use it, it really is super helpful. So there are 4 levels. I know that I'm not quite at level 1 because that's just sort of memorizing things and recalling them. I'm not quite at level 4 because that would be asking students to create something that's like a whole project or a film or a story, and I can't do that in one lesson. So I'm going to come back here to level 2, which is working with skills and concepts. And this is going to give me an idea of possible products. I want my students for this lesson to create a sketch. So you can see here, one possible product is an illustration. So students would be sketching their design for the final product of their totem. My role as a teacher, I'm showing, observing, giving them some examples. I'm asking them some questions that are going to help them. The student is going to be, again, illustrating their design for the totem. And then I like this because in the list of potential activities, I can look at these look at these as sentence stems in order to create a prompt. So one of these, construct a model to demonstrate how it looks or works. I can use that as a sentence stem to create a prompt for my students. So I'm going to ask them to make a sketch, that demonstrates how your totem will combine your interests with traditional forms. So, and I changed up the wording a little bit. Instead of integrating, I use student-friendly language. So that's the prompt that I'm going to give them for that final assessment. So how then do we put it all together? Again, remember, we've got to create a summative assessment that includes the final product. So I'm going to have to come up with a prompt that clearly communicates what I want my students to do. So they're going to create those sketches of their totem. And then I also need to create a checklist. So that's my evaluation. I'm going to create a short checklist, maybe just 3 things that clearly communicate what I want my students to know and be able to do. And they can use these checklists to look at their sketches and do some self-evaluation and see, let's see, does my sketch clearly use images that connect to my personal interests? Do they use traditional forms? So that's going to be my evaluation tool in my summative assessment for the lesson plan. So now it's just time to dig in and start thinking about getting into your lesson plan and including that summative assessment that includes both the product and the evaluation. So thank you so much. And I know we're asking you to do a lot. Remember, you have a few weeks to get that summative assessment done. So check your calendar for due dates for that summative assessment, and also for Module 3, which will be our last module. We're really plugging away here. So thank you so much. And don't forget, you can reach out to me or to your peer coach if you need support. So really appreciate all you do. Have a great day.